Hello, I'm Donna Scala, along with my co-host Tiffany Ross. Welcome to A Time to Dream. Time to Dream is brought to you by Roaring Lambs Ministries, where we want to help you effectively tell your story of what God has done in your life. We can help you through our testimony workshop, give you an opportunity to share your story with the world on A Time to Dream, and also in one of our books, Stories of Roaring Faith. But I'm real excited today, and you're in for a wild ride, as Tiffany said. For those of you listening, I know that you've heard the phrase, laughter is like a medicine. In fact, it's in the Bible. But that's especially true for our guest today, who has experienced much grief, but has been able to use his pain to instead bring laughter to others. A Time to Dream welcomes Brad Newton.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you. I've got two smiling faces at me. How can I go wrong?
Brad is originally from Illinois and moved to Texas in 1963.
63, I'm that old, yep.
Where he eventually worked as an elementary school teacher of gifted students, and he's also worked as the team photographer of the Texas Ranger for 28 years. Pursuing his love of comedy, Brad formed an educational improv comedy troupe in 1991 called Kid Prov. Then in 2001 created a Christian improv troupe called Himprov, which is now known as Fish Sticks. Brad, welcome to Time to Dream again.
Hey, thank you. You just did my whole thing. Thank you. It was good to, thank you. You did a great job.
Okay, well, now for the real stuff.
Ooh.
We go back to your childhood. We always like to start at the beginning and get a glimpse of how someone grew up and what kind of environment and what your childhood was like. So will you take us there?
Sure, let's all go back. There really isn't much to say. I mean, it was in right outside of Chicago, Illinois, and it was the 50s, early 60s. It was Leave It to Beaver time.
Yeah.
You know, the innocence, I think that's the key word that you're going to hear a lot today. That's what I miss the most. You know, this world is not a very innocent place anymore. And my love of kids and stuff, innocence is gone. But it's so nice and so wonderful that I had the opportunity to grow up in that time period where we could go out and play all day, and then the sun goes down. Where are the kids? And it's like, oh, here we are.
Yeah. Safe and sound.
Safe and sound, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just easy. Now, when we moved to Texas in '63, my dad got transferred. He was a Sears lifer. Remember Sears?
Yes.
That used to be an actual store.
Yes.
Poor Sears. Anyway, he got transferred down here, and it was a month before Kennedy was assassinated.
Oh, wow.
And so one day, it was a few weeks after Kennedy was assassinated, we get a knock on the door. It was two FBI agents. And I remember them black suits with the skinny black tie, just like you would imagine. And they were from the FBI. And my mom said, "This is so cool." And my dad was going, "Uh-oh." And I don't know why he was upset. I really don't. And they said they had heard a rumor or something at church that we had just started going to, and just wondered, why are you in town? And it's like, we got transferred, and they left. And my mom was like, "That is the coolest thing in the world." So
this wasn't the IRS.
No. Shh. That's probably why my dad was upset.
Right.
Yeah, it's all that money he stuffed into it. Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. I was wondering where my college fund went. Okay. Dad, I'm going to get you. No.
So Brad, you explained this iconic upbringing that you had, and I think of all the shows that I grew up loving, and it sounds idyllic, really. Did you have much of a spiritual upbringing as you were a kid?
I think we all went to church because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And we went to Sunday school and stuff, and felt boards and all that.
Oh, yeah.
We never really, excuse me, we never really, talked Jesus or whatever, but lived it out. It was my grandmother, more than anybody, she had like a 5th grade education, my mom's mom, and she was just pure love. And never, it was, you could just see God all over her. Now, especially when I look back, it's like this, she just served. And she was the sweetest woman. Those are some of the best moments that I can remember of just, sleeping on the porch and the pancakes and the waffles and getting fat. But just getting fat on her love.
Yeah.
Big-hearted woman. So that's really where it came from. It was more like doing rather than speaking, if you will.
Right, and you said something very key. I grew up in the same time frame, and God was assumed, wasn't it? It was just something you did. It was part of life. Even if you didn't have the personal relationship with him, you knew about him. So your dad gets transferred to Dallas, and you kind of grow up and you get into
No,
teaching.
I did not. I did not. That is a total fabrication there.
But you got into teaching.
Yeah, well, that was, it was an interesting story there. That's why you have me here. Are you sure we're going to go just 26 minutes?
We'll see.
Because this whole story is going to go 26 minutes. No, went to, graduated high school, did well in school, went to Texas Tech, and happened to get in with the wrong crowd. In 1971, 72, in Texas Tech, when you're a hippie, you might as well just put a target on your chest, right? So let's just say that that Lubbock and I had a mutual agreement to separate. And so I started working at Sears, believe it or not. And for 5 years, I just messed around, just hanging out with friends and just working 9 to 5, right? And, that's Dolly Parton. God, that's the wrong place to
What a
go.
way to make a living.
Okay, ooh, all right, let's not sing that. This thing will go way too long. But when I was about 5 years into working for Sears and just purposeless, and I was doing things I shouldn't be doing, and I started drifting away from that. And so I said, what am I going to do? And so I had my day off on a Wednesday, and I went and volunteered at a daycare center in South Dallas, Bale Daycare Center, and I said I want to be a teacher. So I went back to North Texas, back in the days when it was called what was it called? North Texas State University.
Yeah.
And it took me 3 years to graduate. And did my student teaching in Carrollton Farmers Branch, which is a whole nother story. But I started teaching 5th grade. The student teacher I had was Kathy. It's interesting because, you get the little sheet of paper that has all the bio of your student teacher, right? And I had this little picture, remember those booths that you sat in?
Yeah.
And it would go, you get the floor.
Yeah.
Well, my hair was down to here. I had a little goatee going on. I looked like D'Artagnan, okay? Because I was taking fencing, so, And so the lady I was supposed to do my student teaching with saw my picture and said, I'm not going to work with this guy, and traded with Kathy.
Funny.
Kathy turned out to be probably one of the top 5 most influential people in my life.
Wow.
I wouldn't be sitting here doing what we're doing right now without her. So see how God's working in all sorts of ways. Not talking, most of my life is not about
Setting
talking,
up.
it's about doing, and how God's been in the details. So Kathy, we bonded. She goes, you're the kind of teacher that I can support. 5 years later, she's the head of the gifted department in Carrollton Farms Branch. And 3 days before school started, I got my room all set up and everything. Brad, I think I have an interesting opportunity for you. Okay, I'm listening. We have a new program. It's like the gifted program, right? We call it LEAP. And I have 26 5th and 6th graders. I don't have a teacher. I don't have any books. I don't have any curriculum. Are you interested? 3 days before school starts. And I went, okay. And this group of kids, IQs start at 150, except for the teacher, right? And that was the most prolifically creative time in my entire life, because every day I had to create the day after that. And these kids from all over the district, right? They were all I call them the IQ chip on their shoulder. I can do math and algebra and all this. Oh yeah, well I know about science. So I had to somehow bring them together, right? And that's when improv started happening in my life, because I wasn't married at the time, and I had gone to comedy sports, and competitive improv, and I would go by myself and I'd sit in the back and take notes about the games. And so I started playing, because improv, and I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, it started to bring the kids together, and they started working and cheering for each other, if you will. And it's just, I remember one moment that this one little girl Heidi, if you're watching this, Heidi, I'm calling you out. She kept coming up to do the improv, right? And she would start crying. But she tried, and she kept trying. She'd always be crying. And it was the kind of splotchy cry that would go on for, love the girl, still totally in touch with her now. She got up and she actually performed. She did the deal, and the class gave her a standing O.
Oh, nice.
So that's what was happening. So I knew there was some power there on improv, and the people in comedy sports would see me every week and going, "Who is this loser? He's never here with a date, and he's back there taking notes." So that's where I met Sean. That's where I met the people that formed, as you had said, Kid Prov before. So all this is
Right.
and I can just keep going from there because that's where I met Cecilia.
Please, Tell us how you met her.
Well, I mean, she was a kindergarten teacher at the school, and no two classes are farthest away curriculum-wise, right? Leap, I'm teaching freaking algebra, and she's getting kids to be able to breathe correctly, potty training, whatever.
Yeah.
But no two classrooms were more the same as far as energy goes. So I never really, I didn't interact with many of the other teachers in the whole school because we were kind of unto ourselves. But I ate I still do, but I ate crazy, and I would eat tofu and all this stuff. And Cecilia was very interested. She goes, "Well, could you get me some recipes?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Never did. So a couple weeks into the summer, I get a call and say, "Brad, this is Cecilia." I went, "Okay." And she goes, "Well, I wanted to call and ask," and she was real halty. "I want to see if you could give me some of your recipe." I said, "Oh, stop right there. Are you asking me out?" You knew that was coming, didn't you?
I did.
And she goes, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Okay." So that was the start, and it was about 3 or 4 months into us dating. She was in a really bad wreck and crushed part of her pelvis right in this wreck. She got T-boned. So she was laid up for like 6 weeks, and that completely stopped our relationship in terms of going places and stuff. So I would just come and visit, and we would talk. And that's all. So it was really a very rich time for us just to get to know each other.
Right.
So.
And how many years were you all married?
Close to 17. You're kind of close to
Yeah.
17, and she passed away from a brain hemorrhage in 2008. Very sudden. She was in Little Rock and visiting daughter, new baby, all that kind of stuff. And I was in Dallas, and I get a call and saying something's wrong. We don't know what it is. Heart attack, something like that. So I thank God, Southwest Airlines. Thank you, Lord. I got there in an hour, and she just had complete, just brain dead, basically. But God is even in those little moments, right? I mean, I can go into stories. Like I was saying, I did a blog. I got 256 pages of stories. But they found her in her chair. The baby she had held was on the floor, but it was not bruised, nothing. Baby was fine. She had her hands up like this and her head back like that.
Oh, wow.
This is how she worshiped. And you know how some people have the windshield wipers, all that?
Yeah.
Well, she was the open hand, and she had her hands open in her lap. So I know exactly what happened. She knew she had the headache of all headaches, right? Because that's basically what happens. And she had migraines in the past. So she knew something was going on, and she saw Jesus coming. There's no doubt that's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
But before you met Cecilia, you had gone to church, but really didn't know a lot about Jesus.
No, and honestly, I didn't go to church. Honestly, I did not. And when Cecilia and I got married, 9-year-old, 11-year-old kids, and we need to have a church. And I said, okay, well, let's go to the church I play softball for. And because the coach there said, if this is as close as we can get Brad to a church on the softball field, we're going to do that. Again, projecting Jesus through action,
Right.
not beating me over the head.
Right.
And that's, so we started going to church, changed that to go to Bentry, because she was searching churches and said, you need to come hear this guy, Pete Briscoe. And I said, okay. So we got married in 91. It was on Easter Sunday, 97, as I'm driving to the Ranger game to work, that I said, okay, Lord, let's do this thing. Let's move on. And so a couple months later.
So you invited Jesus into your life while you were driving.
I was driving, listening to a sermon.
It can happen anytime, any place.
Any place, absolutely.
In church. You don't have to be.
That's right.
Right.
Thanks for kind of bringing me back to reality here. But a few months later, I said, okay, I've been reading and I'm studying, and there's this thing called Equally Yoked. And she goes, yeah, I understand. And I said, why did you marry me in 91? I'm not a Christian, right? And she looked at me like almost with disdain. She goes, you're a Christian, you didn't know it. And she just walked off. Again, trust in the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's
and
powerful.
And she didn't hound you about
no, she
the
lived
Bible.
it.
She lived it and loved you into it.
Exactly. And how she put up with me for that long, I have no idea. I don't know how anybody puts up with me for that long.
You mentioned the Texas Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
So tell the audience what you were doing with them.
Okay, so as a photographer, that's what I do for a living right now. When I started teaching in 80, I started working for a small newspaper in Carrollton. I mean, just like, I think 8 people read it. But maybe 9, I don't know. I mean, my mom, and I started going to the Ranger games to, do a few things here and there. And no big deal. And in 85, they were looking for a new photographer. So I just put my resume in, which was basically hardly anything. And I bid really low for the job. I think that's what, and so the guy that hired me in 85, John, he's still there now. So, we worked together basically from 85 to when I left it in 2012, contract photographer, but he wanted full time. And I said, there's no way Chairs and me don't get along too well for a long period of time, which was because so many things, powerful things have happened since then. That I needed to. So, World Series, All-Star games, I work for baseball card companies. I mean, I love the game. Yeah. I love the game. And I had the opportunity to be, a pre-front row seat, because I'm on the field. And I never took that for granted. Yeah. And the relationships that we built, we had a really cool cadre of Christian photographers. And then they had, of course, the chapel, and so the players and I got to go in and be in the chapel with those guys, and just to see how God works, within the context of Major League Baseball. You think, they're athletes and they're this and that, but there's some powerful Christians, powerful.
It's cool.
Well, and the founder of this ministry, Roaring Lambs, was one of the first baseball chaplains for the Rangers. His name is Gary Kinder.
Yeah, that was okay.
He got John Weber involved.
Yeah, okay, I know John. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so Brad.
Yeah.
He's still here.
Oh, he's getting serious. Okay, I told you this is going to go past 26 minutes.
But what was cool is when I first was reading your story, it dawned on me that I saw Himprov years ago, and I can attest to the fact, people, a fantastic, entertaining, wholesome, funny group. So would you share with us just the progression from you were doing Kidprov, then Himprov, and now Fish Sticks? So share with our listeners about that.
Sure. So going back to when I was teaching the gifted kids, and then seeing that the power of improv, Sean was one of the guys in Comedy Sports, along with a couple other people, and we talked about they wanted to do stuff in like daycare centers. And I said, look what I'm doing with middle school, 5th, 6th, graders. And so we kind of just got together, and the group in Dallas at that time, Young Audiences, Arts and Education Program. So we applied to be on their roster, and what we do is improv and then connect curriculum to it. So language arts, creative thinking, math, etc. And so we really did really well for that first 10 years or so. And as Young Audiences peaked and changed their format and stuff, things kind of leveled out, but did teacher training and, you name it. And then in 2001, Sean and I were going, let's do some church stuff. And then God, again, not hitting us over the head, just brought the right people, amazingly talented people, just out of the woodwork. Where did this person come from? I can't tell you. I didn't find them. They just showed up. And some of them are still with us, as we were talking earlier. They're still with us now. And the stuff that we have been able to do, it just, for me, again, it's that word innocence. To watch people, families together, laughing.
Right.
Yes.
And, it's 5-year-olds laugh. 95-year-olds have the nicest sleep in their life. They just sleep. Actually, another story. We were doing a show for some volunteers at the Carrollton Library, and it was, older generation, right? And so I'm emceeing the show, and there's a lady sitting right down front, and she was asleep. So I kind of went over towards her, and the person behind her goes, just, leave her alone. And I said, okay. After each one, because it's game centered, so after each game, she would get up and she'd go, and then go back to sleep. And after the show, she was the only person to come up and said, "You boys did a really good job." I said, "In your dreams, lady." It was, but we've done shows for the churches that cater to homeless people. We've done shows for homeless people, which is amazing. For special needs, probably the greatest audience we ever had was a group of special needs adults. They were a riot. Oh my gosh!
We need laughter,
Oh.
don't we?
Oh.
It covers the pain that we're dealing with, and just the current events that we're reading about, and,
Yeah.
and the losses that we experience. Laughter is just so important.
It is definitely, and especially clean humor.
Right.
And when you say that, it makes me think of the best show that I've ever been a part of, and we've worked with this group 3 times now, was Wounded Warriors, PTS survivors,
Yes.
and to watch these guys just sitting there, and they're like,
I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to laugh.
that's one guy especially, he was the size of this room, and he had a dog bigger than this room, and he just sat there like this, and all of a sudden, and then he even gave suggestion. But you got to be careful with those ex-military guys. We need a suggestion, and this stuff, it's like, no. Remember, family show, right? But they loved to mess with us. That was amazing experience.
So God has blessed you with another lovely wife.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah?
Oh my
How long
gosh.
have you guys been together now?
We've been married for 5, and we've been going out for close to 10 years. So
Wow.
it was about 3 years after Cecilia passed away that started dating, and Susanna kind of got me on the tail end of grief. I don't know how she hung in there with me, because I had my ups and downs for sure. And just a big shout out to women that marry widowers. I have no idea how they deal with that. I don't, because they know that there's those moments that they can't be a part of.
Right.
There's no way. In fact, they have to stand back and not be a part of those moments. And as I said, I'm emotionally incontinent. I cry at the drop of a hat. And so Susanna knows. She's a very wise woman, very, very wise, and just the opposite kind of thinker than I am. She's very linear. She keeps everything on track, and I keep trying to take everything off the track. Let's figure it out as we're falling. Oh, is that what we got? Okay. I felt a balance here.
Okay, so, I do wish we had a bunch more time with you, but as we're winding down, you have a wealth.
He's just getting wound
I
up.
know.
Oh, I know. Listen, come on. I don't want to go to work. I want to stay here.
But you've really had some great things to share with us, and I just want to let you be free to share with our listeners what some final thoughts might be for them.
And for all of us.
Yes.
Because it's difficult sometimes to stay where we need to stay. I think improv really helped to define more, again, in action, of what my life is spiritually, and that is to be in the moment, and to be open to the gifts that are given to us every moment. To say yes. The key to improv is saying yes, and then at that point, it's yes and. So to me, that means saying yes to what God offers, and then we don't just sit still.
Right.
I mean, you saying yes means there's some marching orders or dancing orders or whatever kind of orders you want, that we have to move forward.
Right.
And when I teach my classes on improv, it's like, this is what it's all about, is responding to the moment, being in the moment, attending. I'm not trying to think ahead.
Right.
I'm not trying to think behind. And I just went blank on my moment. I know what I was going to say. Excuse me. The moment is where we're going to meet God. We cannot meet God in the past,
Right.
and we can't meet God in the future. We can only meet Him right here.
So good.
And that's where it's like, what is heaven going to be like? And it's like, it's the eternal moment. It is the word kairos. Look it up. It's a great word. The moment, not chronos with the time, but the moment. And that's what heaven's going to be like, is the eternal now that we won't be worried about or thinking about, because we'll be so ingrained and so focused on Jesus right here in front of us. Right now, we're going to be enjoying forever without even knowing it's forever.
Right.
But being in the moment, taking a risk, but taking a risk in faith. And right now, more than ever, it's really dangerous to take risks, if you will. And there are ways, and you have to look for those. Again, being adventurously expectant, looking for those ways. I hope that made some kind of sense there.
Well, and you give so many people a gift. When you can make someone laugh, don't you feel good inside when you've brought a smile to someone's face, or you've heard their laughter? It's such a gift that you're able to give people.
And it can be an idol. It really can. It got to be real careful about that. But it's something, I mean, this 6, 7, 8 months now that I haven't done any improv is the longest by far since 91 that I haven't done it. And as you can tell, maybe I'm kind of extroverted, and I love being around people, and again, making a difference, having a purpose that can bring some innocence,
Right.
some lightness, and we desperately need that, but we can't get together to do that.
Right.
And it only works like this online.
Yeah, right. It's a little harder.
Yes, ma'am.
So, in closing, how important is God in your life?
It's Jesus is number one. I forget that a lot, and I do, but I know it right here. I know it, and right here I wander away. I wander because we all know that this is not sanctification. It's this,
Right,
and we all have our downs and our ups. But one thing I learned with my grief is that the deepest part of my grief, I knew that I would not fall off the ledge, because I knew where that ledge was. I knew the rock, and I could grieve totally by knowing that I wasn't going to go through to the bottom underneath,
Right,
because
right.
Jesus was where I was standing.
Right.
And those valley moments, honestly, were peak moments. I was never closer.
Yes.
So I know in those horrid moments that He's there. I mean, how can you not just say, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't want horrid moments to have those connections again. But I think that says it all right there for me.
Right. So it really starts with a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Growing up, he knew a lot about Jesus. He knew a lot about religion, knew a lot maybe about the Bible, but without that personal relationship of having Jesus invited into your life to really take control of your life and fill the void that you might have in your life and be the everything in your life, life is empty. Jesus loves when we laugh, and so he has helped Brad laugh a lot. He loves when we capture special moments, and Brad being a photographer, you can look him up as his photography skills. He has captured a lot of special moments, and he sees them as God moments. And we want to make sure that you understand how important Jesus is, that he died for your sin, and that he rose from the dead, and he lives at the right hand of God the Father, and he also resides in your heart when you turn your life over to him. So we want to encourage you to let today be the day that you invite Jesus into your life and you just say, Lord, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life and I don't really want to live without you. I can't do this life all on my own. I need you. And simple words like that said sincerely is a prayer that God loves to answer, and he will come into your life and you will feel his presence in your life like never before. And so we're encouraging you to do that today. It's been fun with Brad.
It's been fun with you guys.
He's available to you at brad@bnphoto.com. BN is Brad Newton. Brad@bnphoto.com. Reach out to him.
Thank you.
And if you want to see more about what Brad is doing, look at his website, fishstickscomedy.com. I looked at it the other day. I'm so impressed. You are all over the country.
I know, it is amazing.
You have troops everywhere.
Yeah, it is
Really
amazing.
growing.
And they're doing online improv,
Yeah.
and they are, and it's really interesting. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I want an audience. But they're doing a great job on it. They really are. I'm
Good.
very, very.
Check out his website. And if you'd like to reach Tiffany and I, would love to hear from you at atimetodream@gmail.com. I'm Donna Scale along with Tiffany Ross. Thank you for listening today. Hope you have a great week. Keep dreaming, and may God richly bless you.